was that? What? What's that sound? Where? It's aliens and they're living in your town. Damn. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.
Hello, weirdos out there in Weirdo Land. It's the Weird Whenever podcast. How the heck is everybody doing? Let's get into it right away.
Woohoo!
Yes. It is a creepy night. Rain, darkness. Dennys, you a little creeped out tonight?
I'm a little bit weirded out, yeah. This
Vic-
is the second Weird and Whatever podcast we've done with gloomy weather.
Would you call this the gloomy weather series?
Oh, I like that. I like the ring of that.
Vickie, one of the questions for Ask Vickie this week has to do with the weather, and it's something along the lines of, does Vickie know of any situations where weather played a factor? Meaning, can weather conjure up spirit?
There's some people believe that water and electricity can actually bring spirits. Electricity, obvious reasons, because they need electricity. Water, it depends on your school of thought. There are some school of thoughts that say that water is a repellent. Some say that it attracts spirits. So it depends on what your viewpoint is. I've never noticed any difference in an investigation when it comes to, lightning, rain, even full moon for investigations. I actually get less evidence on a full moon.
We're made to believe, oh, rainy weather. The moon is out back here. Swamps. Smog, all that is supposed to conjure up spirit, but folklore. It's just
in my experience, it does. I think that it could be that when it's raining, people are inside. You're quiet because you're kind of listening to the rain, and that may be you're more in tune with what might be happening in your house that normally is happening when the sun's shining, but you're outside and enjoying it, so you're not paying attention to it.
Maybe I'm in the minority on this. I feel daytime horror is creepier than nighttime horror. There's that one, what's that one show where they're having a picnic? It's a guy and a girl, they're having a picnic, and that clown comes out.
American Horror Story.
Season
4.
It's like noontime, they're having a picnic, and they see this clown walk out of the brush, and the clown's walking up to them. I think he has a bowling ball pin, and they're going, what's this guy doing? And before you know it, he's on top of both of them, clubbing them in the head. It's in the middle of the day. I find that more horrifying than the nighttime. We expect terror to happen in the night, Beckett, but daytime.
It's a great point, and I'll have to think about it, but I'm definitely a nighttime guy.
You're a pussy at nighttime?
Yeah.
Isn't that the worst? As a grown man, you still get scared from bumps in the night with sounds and darkness.
The fear of the unknown. It's a super primal fear we have.
I grew out of the alien fear a little bit. I think I told you guys on the podcast, Fire in the Sky really did a number on me.
That's a movie about aliens, and I do recommend people to watch that if they are an alien enthusiast.
That did a number on me. As I got older, I don't get scared as much, but I seem to have grown out of the alien thing. But to your point, definitely nighttime.
Nighttime.
Yeah.
My brother is 6'6", and he even says, "Yeah, man. Sometimes if I have to go outside at nighttime, I feel like someone's gonna jump me, and then I feel like a pussy."
Well, it's true. I mean, you don't know what could happen at night. You're left to a lot. Everybody's kind of left more to themselves at night too.
Yeah. Don't watch murder specials at nighttime.
Some people, it's so funny. You're right. I think eventually they do catch up to you, but there is a type of person who watches murder specials and then goes right to bed, no problems.
Well, your wife Jen, me and her have been really getting super close talking about our murder specials that we watch. I go, have you seen that one? Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. And then we'll go into a 20-minute conversation about that case. And we were talking about that today on the podcast. Murder specials do well. I'm not the only one loving on some murder. It just does well.
Oh, it does really well. Everything's murder centrally themed now.
Why do you think it does well, Dennys?
Because it's an oddity. It's not something that you necessarily come across a lot in life, so it's kind of like, how could they do that? It catches your attention for that reason.
Vickie, your thoughts? Why they do well?
I agree. I think because it's out of the norm of most of us to even think about that we could possibly commit one. And fortunately, most of us do not have a family member or someone close to us that have actually been murdered. So again, it's just a curiosity. It's a
little voyeurism in a way.
Big time.
Yeah.
And we live in that time.
Yeah.
Reality TV, I think, changed everything. Social media. I'm not going to go on a social media rant. I do have an email about me going on social media rants we're going to get to later on. And we're gonna discuss a little bit about social media. We won't go too deep into it, but I do want to get some thoughts how it ties into a few topics we're doing tonight. Okay, Vickie, another question for Ask Vickie. Does Vickie know, or what are her thoughts on ghosts coming from a different dimension? Ghost, spirit, different dimensions. Do you believe in that?
I have not delved deep into dimensions. I just see this side, the veil in between, and the other side. That's the only thing I've been shown. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying there's not validity to it. I just haven't been shown it.
The multiverse puts my brain in a pretzel. Like watching that movie, what was that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Inception?
Oh, yeah.
That movie just took twists and turns and just put my brain into a pretzel.
Well, I brought up dimension on the KVJ show, and I got some comments going, Bird, I want to know what you're talking about, but I don't even understand what dimension means. So I want to kind of go through the round table. What do you think we talk about different dimensions. What does that mean to you, Beckett? In layman's terms, for someone that doesn't understand it.
Yeah, so I have a tougher time separating different times because sometimes multi-dimensional is different times, right? Times are running kind of like, it sounds kind of nerdy, but if you're doing a garage band, right, and you drop audio files, like they're running simultaneous to each other, it makes more sense for me to think that there's other dimensions, like outside of other reality, but they're all happening along the same continuum in the same time. I have a tougher time with the time travel, although Einstein basically believed, as my understanding, that it could exist. But I think of more of like a black hole. Like you could go through a black hole, kind of like that movie Stargate, right? Where you, that movie,
Where are my old people at?
That's great.
Stargate.
It was great. They actually uncovered recently, I don't know if it was in Egypt or in the Middle East, they uncovered an I'll send it, I can post it, on a archaeological dig that it looked like a Stargate. It was actually a portal. And maybe it was just pagan praying or something like that, but this the people studying it were like, this looks like a Stargate. Basically.
Vickie, you made a face when Beckett said that. Do you have a follow-up?
No, I was probably just chewing on my lip. Just coincidental.
Dimensions are weird because they all have to run parallel to each other, right?
That's what I thought.
The part I have a hard time understanding about dimensions is if one goes off on a different tangent, because that's what they talk about where things get messy. But imagine if everything's just parallel universes. I would think maybe it just splits the physics of each world differently amongst them all, and maybe color spectrums, you know?
So,
but what's the purpose of the multiple dimensions aside to explain?
Well, you have different kind of companies. You have Burger King and McDonald's, so you could have different dimensions, right? Like they're just in that brand, right?
For sure.
We're in the Earth brand.
So I mean, technically there'd be infinite dimensions.
Okay, so what you're telling me is we are just doing our own dimension, going along our life.
There has to be another one parallel running, doing this exact same thing that we're doing here with some sort of difference, I guess.
But where it gets confusing is where there's another version of you in another dimension. I know that's another level of dimension. It
that's what I'm saying.
It starts to get really, really fucking confusing. I get why people get confused with it.
Well, I guess you could, and I'm big on analogies. Like if you're playing a T Swift song here in this dimension, that same song could be playing in another dimension, right? Like they're two tracks.
I would imagine so.
They're two tracks that are playing in different dimensions. So you could almost have. I'm actually curious, Vickie's opinion. Could two souls exist in different dimensions potentially?
Well, so in one dimension, what if one person died and then in the other one they didn't for whatever choice reason that was different there?
I want to get Vickie's answer on Beckett's question, but I guess my follow-up to be the naysayer going, why do you have to have another dimension? Why do you have to have another Beckett in another dimension? Why is this dimension not good enough? And I think that's where people have a hard time. They only know what they know. They only know where they live and how they live. So the idea of another version of themselves in a different dimension does not make sense.
That's true.
And why is there not 3 dimensions of your version?
Yeah, well, you could talk to people a long time ago and be like, why does the Earth rotate around the sun and the sun not rotate around the Earth, right? Or why are there other galaxies out there?
But where does it end, though? Is it 2 dimensions? Is it 3 dimensions? Is it 4 versions of Beckett? Where does it end?
Well, then you're in trouble.
The string
that's what I'm saying.
There's like hundreds of dimensions, I think. For as far as the science goes behind it, where they're thinking about the string theory and the multiple dimension theories, it's a lot. It's a ton of them.
Well,
so I understand what's the purpose of having so many different kinds, except for to explain the math, I guess, for the science.
And somebody that doesn't understand, they would say, hey, so Beckett, there's another version of me in another dimension doing shit that's different than what I'm doing now, and that's just a different version of me, and why does it have to be that way? Who said that's the fucking rules?
Right. I mean, I question everything. It's super interesting. To Denny's point, the string theory, what I find interesting, and not to say that people that are smarter than me are always right, but it's interesting when I listen to people that are smarter than me explain string theory and believe in it, right?
Yeah,
and
it's very tough to grasp.
Yeah, you listen to like Nobel Peace Prize winners or whatever, and like you hear them explain and believe in string theory. That's a whole nother, and quantum physics. It's just mind blowing.
All right, what Beckett asked you. Repeat the question, Beckett.
So, can two souls exist in different dimensions at the same time, or is Vickie's understanding with her experience that a soul is a soul and solely exists there?
Nice.
You solely fuck.
I mean, based on what I've been shown, no, you wouldn't have another soul in another dimension. The way I would think of another dimension is kind of like you've seen those horror movies where there's a mirror and you look like you're looking yourself in the mirror, but it's really something on the other side that looks like you. If that's the case, maybe doppelgangers are just from another dimension that step into ours just enough for you to see them and see yourself, and then they go right back.
It's like the black cat in Matrix, right?
I never seen it, so I don't. I mean, I
What?
know the movie. I just don't get the reference.
You haven't seen Matrix?
I have not seen it. Beckett, I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Explain deja vu.
Get out of my house.
You don't have to publicly crucify me, Beckett.
That is one of those movies that a majority of people have seen.
All right, Denny's, fuck you too.
That's one of those movies that.
You haven't seen Reloaded or anything?
I'll watch. I haven't seen anything Matrix, Beckett.
So the later ones get kind of weak.
I'm gonna go over this weekend and just binge it with you.
Bullshit. I don't. Brother, door will be unlocked.
Okay.
I better see your ass
You
here.
guys got to have a Matrix weekend.
That's right.
I love it. I'm so hyped for it.
There'll be no weed for that.
But yeah, so that show Rick and Morty touches a lot into multi-dimensions and
They do.
universes. But I mean, that show also is so extreme, it's taken to the most extreme measures. I just wonder what's the purpose of having so many dimensions.
What's the purpose of having one?
You're right. So
But if you did that with every question on the planet, you're just going to be doing that circle of, well, I mean, I have 3 dogs, but what if I had 4? I mean, you could do that with any kind of any type of situation.
You're 100% right, and I might get a little flack for this, but religion, pagan gods, like a god of the ocean, god of the mountain, god of the sky, what happened is in a lot of times throughout history, until science could explain it, they had a reason, they had a certain thing for it. So we fill the vacuums because I think our monkey brain has to fill a because there's got to be an answer.
we have to know the answer.
We have to know the answer to everything. Now we have Google, so we want to know.
Google's not that accurate all the time, dog. Sometimes Google don't fucking know what they're talking
It's
about.
everyone's answer.
But
to
then you have
everything.
Wikipedia.
I fucking Wikipedia's always need citations. There's a lot of need citations in Wikipedia too.
Yeah,
I thought all that shit was so permanent. It's all a lie too.
Yeah, fair
nothing's
enough.
real.
Fair enough.
I kid, but no.
Well, so the only reason I can see there being purpose, if we're going to stay on this topic, is if there was a dimension where everything was blue, there's a dimension where everything was red, there's a dimension where everything was yellow. We have all the primary, whatever. So there's all those, and then there's a culmination dimension where everything combines together, where we have the full color spectrum, right?
We don't know a why answer on anything.
And maybe
If you
that's,
think about it.
Sometimes I do believe in my heart and soul we're not supposed to get answers. We're not supposed to know everything because we can't even handle when we run out of toilet paper. So I don't know if we could handle the behind the scenes moves of what life is about.
You can't handle the truth.
No, we cannot. Not to be a Debbie Dickface, but
Because you end up in a Wizard of Oz situation. You look behind the curtain, you're maybe a little disappointed.
well, there's a Billy Joel song about that. Where's the orchestra that I will not get into.
You
but-
always reference where's the orchestra.
Well, it's about getting. It's basically if you don't even have to hear that song. There is a feeling sometimes where you've gotten in life You've won all your goals. You're on the top of the mountain. You've done everything you could do. You fought, you bled, you cried, you lost people. Everything came to that one moment, and you finally get to the top of the mountaintop. You get there, and you look around and go, "This is cool, man. This is cool." But is this as good as it gets? Is this really? Is this it?
Yeah.
And that's a hard feeling for some people.
Where's the orchestra? Where's my reward? You don't always get one. It's
And
the journey.
And maybe that's the genius in the higher power is that they know that. They know that showing everything is somewhat disappointing. Like I found it really interesting. I read a study that the best part of a vacation for most people psychologically is the planning of the vacation, is the anticipation of the
fantasy
vacation.
of
Sure,
it.
the vacation was great, but it's the build up.
Baby, getting there's half the fun.
Yeah, that's why I sail, because it's about the journey, not the destination.
You sailing dick.
Right out there.
I'm fucking sailing.
Hair in
I like
the wind.
I sailed to Peru. I don't think you can sail to Peru, but maybe you can. I don't know. Vickie, great job on Ask Vickie. We love it. Now let's turn our attention to a Joe Ponton. He's a man of the street, or should I say a man of the beach. He's got a few items he's going to show us.
He's got a bone.
He likes to walk the beaches, and we talked about it last week. You find some fucked up things on the beach. And you found something, was it today you found this? He's always finding these weird things. I'm showing this on not KVJ TV, the weird whatever TV. He found these two letters a few months ago, and clearly they came from the same person because it's the same jar. Different handwriting, but the same, same letter.
It's an interesting choice of jars. I think I go old school with more of like the thin neck.
Yeah, so if you go out to the beach, I'd say you go out there every day, you're going to find some shit.
Yeah,
and
I'm
what
at
did you
this
find
often.
today?
So this morning I found, where's the camera? I don't have any visual aspects here. This morning I found this rib bone. It's pretty solid. It's
huge.
It's either a shark or a whale, and it is definitely probably the largest thing I found at the beach here.
It wouldn't be a manatee, right? It wouldn't flow
No.
out the inlet or anything like that.
No, I Googled it. Sorry, Bird. It's either a shark or a whale.
This thing is so heavy, it's kind of like a fish dildo.
Well,
This is an aquatic dildo, y'all. Look at that thing.
Vickie did say that, reference that earlier this morning.
Vickie, I don't mean... Yeah, you're right. Look at that thing.
This has some weight to it.
That would kill somebody.
Oh,
That
you
would
could
be
definitely use that as a weapon and kill
that
someone.
would be a murder weapon, and I don't know if anyone's ever been killed with a manatee rib bone.
Only when I was 69ing the manatee.
Oh, my God.
Whoa.
That was a throwback to last week.
Recall.
Baby, you're never going to freak me out to talk about 69 with manatees. We're fanatees here. What's another thing you found, Mr. Ponton?
So we just find some random rocks and stuff. I don't know if I'm on the camera with this one or
You
not.
are, just-
I don't know what anybody else sees. I won't reference it, but I think we all here see pretty much the same thing. Beckett, you haven't seen this yet.
No, the face.
All right, so
All
let
right.
me, if you're just listening to the audio, Joe Ponton is holding up a rock that does look like some kind of a gremlin-like face, a demon of sorts. It's just, I think, from weathered,
Yeah.
weather to weather, Beckett.
Yeah, it's like a cloud. Takes on a shape, right?
Yeah.
But it is pretty nuanced.
Yeah,
Why?
it's extremely ogreish.
And while you're here, Mr. Ponton, there was something I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
We had talked about you finding a dead body when you were a kid. What year was that?
1984.
All right, so I was doing some investigating for our cold case files, and I came across this cold case in Davie that I did not know was. I didn't think it was you, but I want to. Is this you?
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to read it to you. Broward County Jane Doe was a young woman found strangled in Florida in 1984. She was pulled out of a canal approximately 2 days after her murder. Some speculate she may have been a victim of serial killer Christopher Wilder. If true, she would have been the first known victim. 14 women have been ruled out as the victim. Is that her?
It could be. It was
Well,
around April of 1984.
That's what it was.
And it was the 133. It's the 130th block of Southwest Davie. It was half mile from my house. It could very well be her. I know I sent you. I believe it was in February. The write-up because she had been tied to a chair and she had drifted into the culvert of the bridge, and that's where my brother and I found her.
Well, I don't. That has to be her
has to
because
be.
there's no way there's another 1984. I've looked deeply into the Davie.
But I don't-
there's 2 or 3 cases that have happened in Davie where there's some Jane Does there, which is odd. Davie to have 3 Jane Does, although one did get finally identified.
It was really chaotic out there. I mean, the KKK was out there. It was really pretty twisted. Late 70s, early 80s in Davie. Especially we were Southwest. We were before Weston or any of that stuff was there. We had the rock pits. We had just lakes that they dug out and
The
now they're
rock,
homes.
the rock pit kind of sounds kind of awesome. We're going to the rock pit to fucking rock out.
The more I hear the story, it sounds like Stand By Me.
Doesn't it? You found a
much
kid
like
named
Davie.
Ray Brower by the.
Well, she had been tied to a chair, so I don't know if she was strangled before, but we found her. She was tied to the chair.
Did the police? So when you find a dead body like that, do the police ever give you a follow up, or you probably didn't even do that back then?
I was 10,
Yeah.
so my brother was 12 or 13.
How did your brother handle that?
He's pretty weird too. So.
But were you both visibly upset?
Oh
or?
yeah, we went to Jimmy Moore, who was the local everybody knows him guy, and we said, look, the water was flowing. You could really hear it because we were actually going to see the monkeys that were on the train. It's a really long story, but we saw her. We went over to Jimmy, and he had a CB radio. He CB'd the cops. They talked to him more than they talked to us, but they didn't want us around. I mean, we were 10, 11 years old.
Fucked up, man.
That's right. Wild.
Well, Mr. Ponton, we appreciate your efforts out there on the
Yep.
beaches. We're not going to be happy till you find us an alien,
It's all good.
young man.
Let's keep it weird.
Give it up for Joe Ponton. Let's read some of the comments. Want to welcome the chat room. We've got a Grant in the chat room. We've got a Toph. Anyone else getting depressed?
Always.
Always Toph. I mean, come on. All right, what else we got going on here? We do have maybe a little round of some
Denny's random facts.
Thought I heard a wind up there.
Oh, yeah, sweet Dennys. He's going to give us some great factoids. He does a really great job, and he works hard mining and finding and searching. Dennys, Vickie's going to be your educator, and she looks like she might
She had a rough week at work.
she might want to fuck you up.
Let's hope it's not corporal punishment.
She's our educator. She grades you. If she loves it, she gives you an A. If she hates it, she gives you an F. Dennys, the floor is yours.
I get it. We all love science and the advancements we do, but did we really need this genetic modification? And maybe I'm wrong, but scientists have genetically modified goats to spin spider silk from their udders. I guess there's been a shortage of spider silk, and they can't milk spiders, as the scientist said. U.S. Professor Randy Lewis found a gene, and he spliced a spider gene with a goat gene, the spider gene of a golden orb weaver. And now they produce milk that also produces silk, which they also weave and get milk and silk at the same time from goats.
So Spider-Man is realistic.
This is a spider goat.
Wow.
So what do you guys think about this? Adding different elements to harvest from an animal. So instead of getting just milk from a goat, you now get milk and silk. What do you guys think?
That flows nice. I got that milk and I got that silk.
I think it's messed up, but
I think it's messed up too, right? Do you think that goat wants to be producing?
You look when humans, and not as a hard, fast rule, but you look when humans try to manipulate things, whether it's trans fats or whatever the example might be, we always go back and be like, yeah, that wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, well, so that experiment was started in 2010, and from them they've produced a ton of silk. I guess they've been using for a lot of stuff, because I guess that golden orb weaver spider silk is really strong. So they said that it's been very good, but so now they're thinking about expanding that to different things. What do you think the next modification could be that would be useful?
I just think as humans, I don't know, man, we're either bored or we are fucked up. I don't know, Beck.
I feel like that's so messed up, right?
Yeah. Vickie, your thoughts?
Spider goat.
I don't have words.
We're getting too cute. We're getting too cute.
I think we're getting too cute. And how did they come up with that concept?
I mean, I give you an A for effort, but the fact itself sucks.
Oh, it's such a bummer.
I mean, and then if it doesn't work right, then you have like silky milk or milky silk.
Yes.
Like you're not going to have the two, distinctions. It's just going to get blobbed all in one. Bad idea.
We are too cute for our own well-being,
are.
Mr. Beckett.
I used to be worried about hair in my food. Now I have to worry about a web in my milk.
Yes. Walk through a goat web.
Denny's already a home run.
Have you guys heard of this place? There's a place called Point Nemo. You guys heard of this? So there's a spacecraft graveyard in the South Pacific. They picked that point because it's the furthest place on Earth from any land. It's home to over 300 spacecrafts associated with space debris, including the MIR space station and the first ever object assembled in planetary orbit by the Russian cosmonauts.
Easy for you to say.
Very tough for me to say.
You had me at graveyard.
Super cool though. There's just a pile of spacecraft, 300 plus spacecraft down there, just in a graveyard in that one spot, and they picked it because it's the furthest from land.
Sometimes graveyards are beautiful, by the way. We saw one in Logan, Ohio.
Yes.
It was me, you, and Mr. Ponton. We were driving. The sun was hitting it, and there was so much death there, but it was beautiful, Beckett. I don't know. Death can be beautiful from a certain point of view.
Well, it's a big part of life. You should kind of accept its beauty as well, because there's beauty in everything. There's also disgust in everything.
It can be beautiful, but I just think it's such a waste. We've talked about this before. I think you guys agreed. They had that company or those companies that put you in a tree pod and you grow as a tree.
Yes,
I love that.
I think
That's great.
so
Yeah, I think that's
fantastic.
amazing.
We
I love that
have that
concept.
downtown cemetery right by PBA, downtown of the cemetery from like the early 1900s, and you're like, what a waste of space.
I mean, if you
know?
tear it down, they're gonna get haunted.
Fucking
right.
Beckett, have you ever
Pet
watched
Cemetery,
Poltergeist,
man.
motherfucker? Good God.
That's the recipe for that.
Beckett's that rich guy that comes in town. Fuck the graveyards.
You
Build!
are. You just were
Build!
that. I can't believe that.
Oh,
That's
Beckett's
crazy.
going to get
I
so
think
haunted.
I think you just buy the air rights and you build above it.
You are fucked. You are so...
That's so random. I never hear anyone say that.
and your bad fuck the graveyard attitude's going to get us all. You're going to bring us all down, Beckett.
Well, I think the
Not me.
tree's great because you plant trees, like a life becomes into another life, and then that's protected and it's memorialized, pun intended, and that's great. But when you just put marble headstones there, when all of the family and next of kin and anyone that would go visit the grave are all passed away, and it has to sit there on a big plot of land in some big area.
A
just-
family property with
it's
a
ridiculous.
mausoleum's cool.
Beckett's trying to get us in a 1980s horror movie situation right now.
I can already feel like we're cursed.
Oh, we're cursed.
What's it going to look like when billions and billions of people are taking up thousands and millions of acres of land? We already
South
take
Florida.
up tons. Yeah, there you go. We already take tons of land up. Like, let's add to it. Let's not keep taking.
I feel like your 80s villain name would be Mr. Barnsworth. Mr. Barnsworth is trying to build under graves.
He comes in, he's like, tear it down.
I do agree with you with the tree thing. That's how I want to go.
Me too.
I used
Me
to
too.
think that I wanted to be cremated and spread and all that stuff. I really do love the idea of being thrown up in a tree and growing and being part of Earth. I think it's a cool thing. It's
great.
And it's more for the people who are alive. They want a physical place where they can go visit somebody.
Yeah.
They
is.
well, I just know my mom and Aunt Ann, they have the ashes, and that's at my sister's place, and it's cool. But it would be kind of a neat to go to a memorial as in an event to, visit. If there was a bench or a headstone, I can see why people do like that. It's more for the living.
I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, if you're dead, do you really give a fuck what happens to your body?
We don't know.
You're right, Beckett. We know nothing.
Because
know nothing.
Because some religions don't believe in cremation. Right?
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be
I'm always breaking the rules, Beckett.
He's
I
a
do.
rule breaker.
Grade?
Well, he had me at graveyard, so A.
Okay.
The
That's
graveyard.
all right. Very good, Denny's.
There is a smoke alarm for the deaf. It was invented by a team of Japanese scientists. It's a life-saving device that sprays vaporized wasabi into the air, which notifies deaf people that there's a fire. It even wakes people up from sleep.
Ooh, I love that.
The thing I thought was cool about this was it won an invention on what's called the IG Nobel Prizes. It's a spoof Nobel Prize, which honors people who make inventions that aren't, world changing, but they're inventions that make people laugh at first, but then make people think. So I thought that was such a weird thing. Well, so anyway, I looked into this just to see the other inventions that could have been, what was coming out that year, because they do a prize each year. And then I found this study they did, which won one of these IG Nobel Prizes. They studied fruit bats, and they discovered fruit bats are one of the only animals that perform fellatio to prolong sex.
Okay. Who's got a bone
To
piece?
prolong sex?
Yes, the female bats have adapted. They realize that if they stop during coitus and turn around and start performing fellatio, that the men will continue longer, and they have longer bouts of ecstasy.
So they're edging?
They go perform fellatio to make the bats last longer, and then the dude bats last forever, and they get tons of pleasure from it.
Wow.
They did a study.
They're edging.
What's edging
They-
mean?
You don't know what edging is?
No,
Out
I
of
mean-
all the
Out
people
of
on
every
the
single,
planet,
there's the plot twist.
fucking Mr. Barnesworth doesn't know what edging is? Are you shitting me?
I mean, that word's almost commonplace at this point.
I know, it's 2022 back in.
I mean, I could guess. It just keeps you on the edge.
No, edging is when you are... Vickie, please cover your ears.
I mean, you feel like a monster describing this.
I do feel like a monster describing it. You prolong your orgasm just to go on, and you're about to O-face. You're like, no, I'm gonna stop it and prolong it and slow it down and keep it going. You like to make it last a very long time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of very tantric. Sting.
It's a tantric kind of a thing.
It is.
I blame edging on modern day porn.
Well, now they do porn edging where you spend 40 minutes there, I guess.
Porn's changed the game with a lot of things. People don't want to talk about that, but it has.
Definitely. Think about it. You could never get that before.
Well, when you see a basketball player play great, then, kids are out on the courts trying to do the same thing, right? They try to emulate it. It's the best form of flattery. So it's kind of like theater for sex. Porn.
Yeah. It's a great way of describing
You learn
it.
some new moves.
Vickie, edging, thoughts?
I know there's been a lot to absorb in the last.
I was going to say, don't ask me to grade the fact because I forgot the fact at this point.
There's been so much.
Well,
So much ground covered.
Denny's bringing up animals edging with each other.
Yeah, fruit bats perform fellatio to prolong sex. It was a
Wow.
study done at University of Bristol.
There's so much that shocked me. Beckett not knowing edging is a lot. Denny's, give us two of your strongest factoids to end this thing.
So this one's kind of just cool. The building in Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's the tallest building in the entire world. It's so tall that you can actually watch a sunset twice in one day. If you watch the sunset from the bottom of the building and right when it sets, get in the elevator and go right to the top of the building, you can then watch it again. It's that tall.
Very cool.
Oh, Beckett loves that.
I love that.
He's sailing to that thing tomorrow.
It's pretty romantic. I didn't want to go to Dubai until that.
It's the tallest building since 2010. It's actually not even classified as a tall building. It's classified as a mega tall building.
Vickie, you hear tales of two sunrises. Thoughts, opinions?
Yeah.
Oh,
I get it. It's very beautiful out there, though.
you got a grade of Y for yawn.
Yeah.
That's a B.
What about bat fellatio?
Really? There's so much talking and conversation. We just sound like
It's
a bunch
pretty
of
gnar, I
we
get
just
it.
sound like a bunch of horned up dudes.
Yeah, I get it.
She wasn't on the edge of her seat on that one.
So
Beckett.
you guys know those 3D glasses, the red and blue lensed ones, the old school 3D glasses?
Of course, Denny's.
Well, so I thought those maybe were invented about 1950-ish or whatever. The first time those were ever used was 1922. In fact, so weirdly back then, the person who invented the camera at the time, or whatever camera model they were working on, would shoot with that and become a director, kind of. So they weren't really good at directing. So the guy who created that 3D technology in 1922 filmed a movie called The Power of Love. It premiered at the Ambassador Hotel Theater in Los Angeles, and people thought it was terrible, blah, blah, blah.
The Power of Love.
The Power of Love. It was 3D. It was gimmicky. Then it premiered at New York, and they also didn't really like it that much. And then it disappeared. Nobody can find this movie again. They don't know what happened to the guy that created the camera, and it has never been heard of again. You can't find it. But it was that technology was invented in 1922. Very weird.
Very weird. Humans had their shit together in the 20s. We did a lot of amazing stuff in the 20s.
They were
See,
obsessed
I-
with inventing.
Roaring 20s.
Did a lot of terrible things too back then.
Yeah, it's true.
Terrible
lot.
things.
That's
Elephants
true.
getting electrocuted
I
to
mean,
death.
if you really want to break down those walls.
It's all on a scale. But yeah.
There was a lot of horrific things.
But
But yeah, being an inventor was a celebrity at that time.
It did make me think. I want to do a little impromptu quiz. Thank you, Denny's. That was great.
That's great.
Great job.
Well, all right.
D- 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 the-
Standing O, I thought. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you have another fact, or you're good with
No,
that?
no, we need to cut it off. No edging on facts.
Oh, Denny, I need it. I want to prolong this thing. Beckett, in 3 seconds, give me your best version of "Power of Love" by Huey Lewis. 3, 2, 1, go.
Did it all for the power of love.
That's the wrong fucking.
I don't even know that's
That's the glory
That's
of
the
love.
glory of
You dick.
the power of love.
Oh, you're right. I know that song too.
The power of love.
Gloria Love's a nice song, though.
I love.
That's what I had in my head the whole time.
I love the glory of love.
Yeah, because it's your show.
That's Glory of Love. If kids Google Google Glory of Love, and kids, if you're listening, what the fuck are you listening to this for? Get off.
Don't Google edging.
Stop listening to this edging show. We've got some other nice things to get to. You guys hear about this raccoon that this woman... So a lady walks into a bar with a raccoon. It sounds like a joke. It's not. A woman walked into a North Dakota bar carrying a raccoon, leading health officials to warn those who had contact with the animal about possible rabies exposure. Now, the raccoon didn't bite anybody, and I guess all this drunk woman was doing was bringing the raccoon around in the bar. I know, and they asked her to
Why?
leave. She wouldn't leave. I think she was all fucked up. And nobody got bit by the raccoon. I don't know much about rabies, and maybe y'all do. Can you get rabies? You always have to get bit to get rabies. It's not something where you can pet.
Yeah, I think, is it transferred through their saliva?
I think
Is that right?
I think it's blood and like saliva contact. Yeah.
But you can get other shit by just petting an animal.
Oh yeah,
Weird.
If they scratch you too, you can get different things.
I had a
Parasites.
family member. We had this weird ass cat as when I was a kid, and my sister, my oldest sister, was holding the cat, and it scratched her. And within a day, the best way I could describe it was where the scratch was. It looked like an everlasting gobstopper on her body. I don't know if you guys remember what that looked like from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Slugworth, all that stuff. Google. It was a form of cat scratch fever, but it manifested in some kind of weird everlasting gobstopper kind of a thing. So yeah, you can get other shit without an animal biting you. But,
Absolutely.
But rabies, they have to break the skin.
I believe so. I think they have to. Yeah, I think it has to be saliva to blood. Like
I mean, in theory, if somebody had a cut on their hands
Yeah.
and the raccoon licked them or something, there's a possibility without biting them. But I mean, I think that's rare.
Yeah, how common is rabies?
I think you have to be attacked by a rabid animal.
So it's not a big time problem here.
No, I don't think so.
no, although if you see a raccoon during the day, it's probably at least keep an eye on him. He might have rabies because they tend to not be out in the day.
Yeah, because it's neurological, right? Like they have neurological issues. If
Yeah, it
they're
messes them
rabid.
all up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what happens when a human gets rabies? Do they just want to start doing
A series of shots. It's painful.
But okay, let's say
If you let it develop.
Yeah, let's say I got bit by a raccoon. I'm like, oh, this thing's so fucking cute. It gives
And
me
you didn't
rabies.
know.
I did nothing. I stay here for 5 days. I let it manifest. What do I start doing? Do I start eating raw meat?
I don't know. It looks like Denny's over there typing it up.
I am looking it up.
Do I start to growl? You always hear foaming of the mouth, Beckett.
I think you do. I think you get a mania.
Well, then you wonder too if people do odd crimes. Do they have a case of the rabes? I agree,
Got a
Vickie.
case of the craze.
They got a case of the craze. Has rabies ever drawn somebody to do the unthinkable?
So I think you get mental confusion, paralysis, and muscle spasms, excessive salivation, which I mean must be what spreads it. That's what happens to you. You
All
get
right.
dizziness, fatigue. You get just basically delirium, fear, and hallucination.
So a human on rabies, dangerous or they're incapacitated?
I think they're dangerous. I
Oh
think they
my
will
gosh.
attack you
Fuck
If
that.
they can
man.
move.
if they can move. Yeah, if they don't get the paralysis and they get the crazy spasm.
Maybe
But
that's
if they
where
get
zombie
confused-
theory came from.
Well, let me
Absolutely.
ask
Sounds
you.
like zombies.
Let me paint a scenario for you. Okay, I get a case of rabies, and I don't know what I'm. It's not my fault. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm out of my mind. Beckett comes over, and I bite off both of your balls and just a eighth of your dick, and you got to get surgery, and then I come to after I get all my shots, and I am horrified of what I've done. Do you forgive me?
No,
Well, I mean that's so.
You don't forgive
extreme.
me.
the balls maybe, but the pee no.
to lose an eighth bird.
The doctor even explained. Bird didn't
Jack
know.
up a lot of this.
Bird
I mean,
did-
just because I can afford it doesn't mean you should do it.
they sit you down and go, oh, Becca, this is gonna be tough for you to hear. But Bird did not know what was going on. He was a victim of a bullshit raccoon. He is just beside himself. Poor guy. He's in a padded room. You still hold grudges. We can't have a beer.
I would maybe have.
We can't go to fucking what's that one restaurant?
No, because then I'm gonna get horny and I can't go have sex because.
No one said you can't have sex. You're just missing an eighth of your dick. You can still
They'll
pork.
reconstruct it.
Yeah, you can pork.
That just tells me an eighth is a serious issue for him. If he's worried about it.
They're gonna use your ear and rebuild it.
I don't always get upset at the result. I get upset sometimes at what led up to the result, right? Like it was the ignoring of the symptoms.
I didn't know though. I thought I had COVID for the 9th time.
Yeah.
I guess I would have to hear your full story.
Damn, Dennys. Same thing.
Oh, dude, that's so rough.
Wow.
Well,
I forgive you.
because of the conditions of it. It's so random. If you bit my arm, I'd be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
exactly.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I get it. It's just so odd that that's the.
All right. Wow.
That's the go-to.
There's a line drawn. I guess.
Because it's kind of like being drunk. Like it's one thing if we got in a scuffle.
Yeah.
It's another thing if you tried to edge me during the scrumble. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, where was your brain during that? You know,
Vickie-
I get that you were overserved.
Vickie, is Dennys and Beckett, are they looking at this the wrong way?
They're some sensitive little bitches.
Okay.
I mean, come on. You poor guy, you have rabies.
Thank you. I didn't know.
You're insane.
You dicks.
Well, give her a scenario that's similar.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, let's hear it, Bird.
Don't make me say it. Okay. Replace testicles with lips, I guess. Vickie, do you hold it against
No,
me?
I mean,
If you can prove and document that you have rabies and it's not your fault, completely different case than if you walked around, you've already been to the doctor says you have rabies, you continue to walk around knowing that you're going to go crazy and bite off somebody's nutsack, that you're responsible for.
That's right.
I agree. I stand with Vickie on this. I would not hold it against you. I would be bummed out about the results, but I'm still having a beer. We're going to Golden Corral.
Yeah, because you haven't lost an eighth.
yeah.
No, the same scenario. I'm saying if you guys did the same
if
thing
we
to me,
bit you.
if you guys did the same thing to me, I would go, man, the results really suck. But they did not know. They had
Dude, as soon as
rabies.
I left this house, you'd be like, what was up with Beckett? I don't care if he had rabies. Like, that was weird.
I don't know. I'm glad we brought this up. It's interesting to see where you guys stand.
All right.
More of the story, don't do it.
Just don't get rabies, y'all.
Like, I'm with Dennys. If it's my arm, fine.
Foot.
Look, I hear you. Now let's change courses here for something a little bit deeper. What are we doing to combat chaos in this world spiritually? I feel like there's a spiritual deficit, but then I think there's also different definitions per person what spiritualism means or being spiritual. And I wanted to ask everybody, when someone says being spiritual, what does that mean to you? I wanted to ask the chat room as well. What does that mean? What does it mean for you to be spiritual? And I think for some people, they always attach that to religion. And I do urge you to maybe, if you're not a religious person, don't get caught up on that part, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just do think there's a lot of chaos going on in the world. A big part of it, in my opinion, I do think we are a slave to technology and to social media. I feel like it does change. It's changed us a little bit. I think there is I don't know. It's not for everybody, but there is a wall of depression, a wall of kind of snappiness. Everyone's snappy, and it's more not about building people up. It's kind of, even when we're kidding with each other, we're just constantly tearing people down. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but I want to get the opinion of everybody. Virginia, good God, Vickie.
What do you want?
Oh!
Sounds just like it.
Vickie! I fucking love
It
Dickie
sounded
Vickie.
just like it.
Dickie Vickie's my favorite, by the way. God, I love it. Dickie Vickie, what does it mean to you?
It just, for me, it means to try to treat people the way I would want to be treated, even in the face of them doing the exact opposite. Just take a breath, step away, and try to keep, because you know what I always tell people, what they do to me, that's their karma. How I react is my karma, and I am not messing with my karma.
Do you struggle sometimes trying to be spiritual in certain
yes.
situations where your ego would get involved in?
Yeah, I have a big head, for
Do,
sure.
do you feel there's times where you want to be spiritual? And again, don't get caught up on the definition. I love your perspective of what spiritualism means, or being spiritual to your fellow neighbor, your fellow person, your family member. To me, the way I look at it is, I don't want to treat anybody that I wouldn't want to. It's the golden rule, really. That's what it means to me.
Right.
Just being spiritually connected. We all have. We're all humans here. We're all experiencing something. So how do I want to be treated? And that's kind of what I mean by the spiritualism. I know we have a lot of atheists that listen to the podcast, which I love. I love that perspective. I want to hear your perspective too. Chat room, email. If you're someone that doesn't find yourself believing in the afterlife, or you don't think there's a purpose, what's your definition, if you had to give it, of being spiritual? Beckett, thoughts?
So without having a lot of time to think about it, I think it's just believing or appreciating that everything's not about yourself, right? And we don't have all the answers, like we were talking at the beginning of the podcast, but whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism or whatever, that we don't have all the answers. And the whole world doesn't rotate around me. Right.
Or even our species.
Even our species, especially our species, because we don't add anything of value. Every other species does. We're almost parasites of the world. We take and take and take. Everything actually has an important role in the ecosystem. But I'm talking more as me as an individual.
Sure.
It's not all about Ryan Beckett. It's not all about, how I fit into Dennys and Jaybirds and Vickie and Ponton and all that stuff. It's thinking that I don't know what the master plan is, or if there is a plan, or if there is a higher power, or what religion's right or wrong. I just understand and this is how I define spirituality, is that there's more out there, right?
Yeah.
And whatever that is, I don't have all the answers, and that's how I define spirituality.
The older I get, the more I like to subscribe to not knowing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is a weird ride. A lot of times I don't get it. None of us were asked to be here, at least not on this. I don't remember asking to be here. I just kind of showed up, and we all show up, and then we have to figure this thing out, and we have to rely on tales of the past and lessons of the past. And then the older you get, you start to question lessons of the past and things that you learn. And it really is kind of an odd ride of confusion, adventure.
Yep.
And it really is your perspective. You could live in a hostile world, or you can live in a fun, creative world, depending on your perspective. Now, I know there's certain situations where you can't be, so fun if you're kidnapped and you're in a torture chamber. Barring those situations, if you're in your everyday life, you do have that choice of looking at life, shitty or positive. And there's people who really have shitty circumstances in their life. If you break it down and look at their life, they have a reason to complain and bitch. And some of those people don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's admirable in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dennys, you have
it's
the floor.
also different.
Yeah, I think if you're another analogy, if you're in the backseat as a toddler in your parents' car going on a road trip with your family, you have the choice to be upset, to enjoy and soak it in, to ask all the questions as to why you're in the car seat, why you're here, why you're going. I think most people, given that chance when they're later in life, they would say to that self, just enjoy it.
Yeah, always
Enjoy the life. Soak it up with your mother and your father. Enjoy going to Disney World. Stop trying to figure it out and be mad that the window's not down and where you're going. Just enjoy the ride.
Such an easy concept, but a hard one to really apply. Everyone does. Your thoughts are the most important thing, and there's a lot of times, even myself, I'm in a shitty situation, and my negative thoughts will take the control. If you do make that switch and go, all right, what if I look at it from a different point of view? Some people are able to do that, but I think it's a practice.
100%.
You have to practice that.
It's your North Star or lighthouse.
It's flossing your teeth. You got to do it every day. You really have to work at your well-being. Dennys, thoughts?
I just feel like you can just learn from every moment there is. like you said, if you're stuck in a car and you're bored or whatever, there's so much you can still do. It doesn't. Not everything has to stimulate you.
Life can be fun, and I think a lot of times we get into autopilot. But to your point, sweet Dennys, if you do go through life always trying to learn something and go, I'm in the car and I'm annoyed and the window's down, blah blah blah. That maybe is life telling you, hey, dick face, this might be a time to work on patience.
Yeah.
This might be a time to work on all of your shortcomings that you don't want to work on.
Right.
I get it.
Everything's a lesson.
But that might be the lesson you might need. And I think if you always ignore those little lessons, then that impatience is just not in the car.
Well,
now you're
about it.
slapping your kid across the room.
Just on the topic of patience, we were talking about musicians. We were watching That's What Friends Are For. Everybody that's performing is just so on point. You got Stevie Wonder, you got Whitney Houston in that one. We were watching a live performance.
Those fuckers knew how to sing, man.
They just sing so well, but there's a talent because think about it. Even in that era, we still had television, magazines, news, we had radio, but there's still less distractions than there are now. We have internet, cell phones. There's so much, but even before them, there was less distractions. You didn't have television. You only had radio. But then before then, it was imagination. There was just when you have less distractions, it really is a creative ground for things to be born.
That's right.
And nowadays, we don't even let our kids have imaginations. If they get bored or they get annoying, it's immediately give them a tablet. Which, I mean, I'm not saying is bad parenting. Do whatever you will. But if you do that, it does rob that kid of learning to... And then we get mad at people for not having patience, or we get mad at kids for not having patience. But we never teach them patience. So it's kind of weird to get disciplined for it.
It's one of the number one. I think it's maybe number one, maybe number two. But when it comes to humanity, patience is something we just do not.
Humans hate it.
We don't have a grasp on it, man, and it leads to a lot of problems. That's why there's so much ancient text and readings of patience, because humanity has been struggling from the get, man.
Well, I don't think humans by nature will do it. I think it's something that an older person gains through life and then has to try to teach to the kids, but the kids don't want to learn nothing.
No one wants to learn patience.
And that's the lesson of patience in itself, that it's something that you just have to learn, unfortunately.
But I do think it's important, and it's something I've always struggled with in my life. Patience is just tough, man. The car scenario is good, Beckett. I like your analogies. I'm a man of analogies. Because everyone can relate to that. We've all been in a car where we're so fucking you're annoyed you're in the car. You're going somewhere you don't want to go. It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but if you change your perspective, maybe it could.
That's right. I was riding with my grandfather at a young age, and he was listening to Sinatra or some jazz station or whatever, and I was like a little tiny kid and whatever, and it was one of those music. It was like listening to talk radio when you were a little kid. It was horrible, right? And I was like, I was telling my grandfather how horrible the music is and can we change the channel? And a couple hours later, my grandma scolded me and was like, oh, you really hurt your grandfather's feelings on that. And, not to be cheesy, but I would give anything to be back in that moment. He's not with us anymore. And I was like, God, I feel like such an I think about that. I was like, God, I feel like such an ass. And like,
and
that was such
a lover of that style of music.
Great point. So now I love that music. And I was like, what a little dick I was. I should have just enjoyed that.
We need to be humbled when we are dick faces. And to Beckett's point, all my greatest lessons when I was acting a fool and someone embarrassed or made me feel bad about how I made them feel and go, damn, I'm a dick. Yeah, you hope you get the lesson. Yeah. You hope you get the lesson. And that's a good example because it changed your perspective on things.
That's right, it did.
You hope you have those moments.
Yeah.
Good, very, very good stuff. How are we doing on time, sweet Dennys?
Let's see. I think we've been going for a second. We've been 53 minutes there.
Yeah, okay. 7p.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll go a little bit longer. We still have a lot to get to. Just to just circle back around with the spiritualism stuff. The one last question I want to ask y'all: do you think there is a spiritual solution to every problem? If you really break it down,
probably if you looked hard enough or had the insight to it, I guess.
Yeah. Is that too hippie trippy? There's a spiritual solution to every problem.
I'll have another analogy. I
Hey,
think,
yeah, this is your you hit your analogy quote after.
I think that the spirituality is the foundation of the house. And it's not everything. It's not the framing. It's not the roof. It's not the electricity. It's not any of that stuff. But it's a very key cog in the process of life.
Yeah.
I love it. Well said. Great
Very-
job.
Great analogy.
Great job,
Very
everybody.
good analogy.
You know, you all know me. I'm a big believer in bringing up these cold case files. We're not going to spend a lot of time of it. What I would like y'all to do for me, if you could, if you're listening to the show, just take the time to either, even if 2 people do this and share it to their social media, just Google these names for me. These are going to be names that we bring up throughout the next few weeks. So we're going to talk about their cases. Maurice Jefferson. Maurice Jefferson, I always talk about him. It was around 1983, 1984. He was kidnapped in Fort Lauderdale. Google his name. If something comes up, share his story. We're going to talk about that in future podcasts. Rachel Hurley, I've talked about that case. It's always stuck with me. Rachel, on March 17, 1990, she's only 14 years old at the time. She was brutally murdered in Jupiter, and they don't know what happened to her. And to give you a little bit background of Maurice's story, he left his family home in Fort Lauderdale on November 30th, 1983 to attend a basketball practice at Dillard High School, where he was a student. Somebody thought they saw 2 dudes throw him in a car, and he hadn't been seen since. There's a documentary about Maurice Jefferson. Google his name. Share his shit. Please share it. Rachel Hurley, like I was talking about, that happened in 1990. That case really, really bothered me because she was roughly around my age, and she was just walking to her mom to go to the car. She was running late, and as she was walking to her car, somebody in the brush at Juno Beach got her and murdered her, and it's just awful. And her father died not knowing what happened, and somebody knows something. And you always hear people talking about these cases now with DNA. I hope these motherfuckers are local. I hope they're scared. I hope they hear about the podcast.
Yeah.
Share it. Put pressure on them. Somebody knows something. And then, of course, Christy Luna, May 27, 1984. Christy walked to the Belk's Corner Store in Green Acres, never returned. A 19-minute social media documentary was released 2019. Google her name. Share their stories, please. That's all I ask. If 1 or 2 people do it, it's a win for me. Talk about it. Somebody knows something. Now let's go to Would You Rather.
Speaking of which, there's another morning show that rhymes with Schmo and Allie.
Yes.
And I heard them yesterday doing Would You Rather.
Everybody does Would You Rather.
Weak ass shit.
Oh, we're not here to start fights.
I mean, I'm
Vickie.
sitting there going, you call that a Would You Rather?
We love Mo and Sally.
We do
Jeez.
horrific ones.
I
Hey,
still-
I said Schmo and Allie.
I still like Murder Kill F. I think that's a fun one too.
We can bring that back next week.
do.
A couple Would You Rathers. Fucking A, man. Would you rather be kidnapped and forced to live with a lizard family for 20 years or be stuck on a deserted island for 1 year where you have to fend for yourself? But there's a bigger chance of death on the 1 year island of
you could
hurricanes.
die, yeah.
Well, it's Hurricane
Or you
Island.
could starve, or you could get.
That's
not get
easy
fresh
for me.
water.
Lizard family. Super easy.
You would go. 20 years of your life, you'd go.
Oh, 20.
Dog, 20 versus 1. But that 1 year versus the 20, it's Castaway on steroids.
But are you just
I
crashing
do the
with
one.
the lizards? Like
I
you
just-
No, they're
But I mean, you can go to work and
No.
go get drinks.
no.
I do one because
You only live with the lizards in their house for
They
20 years.
never release you.
Yeah,
You're stuck in the lizard family for 20 years. No,
I do.
you have
one-
some good times with them.
Well,
you
I
laugh.
imagine
Yeah,
you have to.
I
guys
do 1
celebrate
year.
Christmas.
I do 1 year and roll the dice because time's the great equalizer. You're not getting any more of it. You know?
But like I said, this island, it's the island of death. Oh my gosh, the hurricane just passed through. I'm safe. Oh my gosh, quicksand.
I was raised in South Florida. I got the hurricane thing.
Vickie.
Island.
Yeah, I'll do the
You
island.
guys are going island.
20 years is so long.
Okay,
So long.
5 years with the lizard family.
All right, so 5 years with lizards. They're pretty unoffensive.
The only thing that is weird is they chain you up, but they love you. They don't want you to escape. So for 8 hours a day, you're chained up. Little lizard baby comes in, plays with your feet, but it's benign.
All right, Island. You make the lizard so unappealing. I was gonna almost do lizard too.
Yeah.
You talked me out of it.
Until he ripped out the chains.
Yeah, like chains, 8 hours.
But they're cool chains.
Tickling my feet.
They edge you for 8 hours.
There might be some edging going on there.
I mean,
Now he's back to the lizards.
Lizard people edging.
which one do you pick?
I go lizard people. I want that story. Okay, would you rather have all the trees, grass, any form of greenery try and eat you anytime you walk within 10 feet of you, or have every cat in Florida try to actively stalk and murder you? Every cat, Beckett. Every cat in Florida is trying to fuck you up. So you can't really ever go out. Either the cats or the greenery's going to get you.
I want to make a joke, but it's
Offensive?
yeah.
Well, you wouldn't mind being
I would go. I
surrounded.
would go cats. I go cats.
Explain.
I feel like I could bat them off.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
When they,
Cats go
I think you've thrown some
crazy.
cats at me before, and I just not intimidating by cats.
I'm telling you, everyone thinks I'm a crazy person when I say this. When the cats, when they get uniformed, when they unite and turn on us, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we win.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we lose, but I don't know if we win.
Yeah. I'm still going cats.
Dennys,
He liked cats.
But I live with them.
he's also
It'd
allergic
be-
to them.
Yeah, it'd be hell. I'd have to do the grass to stay inside.
Grass isn't greener on the other side, buddy.
I hear you.
Vickie, if you're just listening to the audio, Vickie shook her head in disgust after Beckett's joke. Yes.
Can I get a seat change?
Vickie! What do you pick, Vickie?
The plant thing.
Do you remember the part in Poltergeist where Robbie's brushing his teeth and the tree tries to grab? That horrified me as a child.
Yeah,
That-
that was pretty disgusting.
Pretty fucked up, Denny's.
Damn, you scared of trees.
I love trees, but
Well,
if they started eating people, I don't know. I don't know if I love them.
I'm not afraid.
We've been eating them for years. It's about time.
Yeah,
I think I would rather have all the trees stalk me. I don't want no cats.
I'd have trees stalking.
I feel like cats are they're ninjas, dog. You won't see them coming. If 5 small cats wanted to murder me, they could easily do it.
I think cats could take you down.
5 small cats, Denny's. I think they could take me down.
Yeah, I think 2 cats could take a person down. Don't you think?
4 don't kill me, I'm in a coma. Would you rather? This one's for Beckett. Only because it's so over the top. You know, I won't do that one. It's too much.
Really, that would be too
Yeah,
much for this
it's
podcast.
Does
too
it have
much.
to do with a manatee?
No, it doesn't. All right, how about
Covered
this
some
one?
Topics.
Would you rather have the nickname, and everybody knows it, work, your ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, everyone knows your nickname. It's now your thing. Would you rather have the nickname the anal wart assassin or the chlamydia cutie?
The CC, man.
You want the chlamydia?
Yeah, that was not bad.
I think I go with the second word. The second word is what people remember, so it's more positive than the
the
assassin.
chlamydia and keep it. Chlamydia is curable.
Yeah, you take a
Yeah,
shot.
yeah.
So,
Take a shot.
So Ryan Beckett, oh, you mean the chlamydia cutie? You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude,
One shot would clear that right up.
Vickie, thoughts?
the other one.
CC, because dumb
Okay.
people wouldn't even know what chlamydia was.
You're right. I
And
think
she-
I
They
think
just
the
think
youth,
I'm cutie.
I think the youth doesn't know chlamydia, dog.
They probably don't. What about syphilis? Is that like with the youth?
It should be because I feel like that's more of a serious one. The
Yeah.
Sif.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think that stays with you for life, like luggage.
the Gonzo and the
Well, they got super gons now.
the regular Gons and then the Clements. I think you're good, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think you start getting into some weird pirate diseases back
Well,
from the
that's
1400s.
Those
Yeah.
are like old ass ones, right?
Yeah, those
Do
are them
people still
scurvy.
get them?
I have a fear of commitment. I can't have something for life.
You don't
Not
want
even an STD.
you don't want SOD, scurvy of the dick. That's
That's
that pirate's disease.
That fucking jaundice dick.
Well, you all did great job tonight. Give
Thank
yourselves
you.
a round of applause. We're going to end the podcast with some local music. We were doing that again, Beckett.
I love it. I'm into
Yes, we are going to play Nicole. And Nicole, I apologize if I butcher your name. Nicole Trujillo.
I like it.
Yeah.
Nicole
very
Trujillo.
nice.
She's doing. Do you have? Did I send it to you, Dennys?
I do. I have it.
And what's the name of that sweet song?
Again, I apologize for my Spanish, but Penas de Luna.
It's in Spanish, y'all. We're going different flavor this week. Keep in mind, I want to do this at the end of the podcast. If you are a local musician that writes your own shit, you write your own music, send it to me, Jason Pennington, KVJ at Gmail. Send it to my Instagram. We had taken a hiatus for the weird and whatever. If you had sent me something and it did not get played, resend it. I'm very passionate about this. I want to get local artist exposure, even if it's, a few thousand people listening. It's better than nothing,
That's
right?
great. It's great.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening to Weird and Whatever. What the fuck is the name of our podcast? Dennis, take it. What's the name of our podcast?
The Weird and Whatever podcast.
You guys have a great week.
All right, we love you all. And
Bigfoot is real.
Nicole Trujillo.
Llega al pasito la noche, la luna sale a pasear, vestidita de brillo y sal de mar. Caminando se acerca la brisa para conversar, su vestido comienza a agitar. Pasará la mañana, pero por ahora aquí está. Sus penas se le quitan al bailar. Le cantan luna, luna, cuánto te quiero. Quédate pa' conversar, quédate pa' bailar. Le cantan luna, luna, cuánto te quiero. Quédate un rato más, que la noche no acaba. Se ha bebido la noche, la luna se refleja en el mar, secando sus lagrimitas, no hay quien la pueda consolar. Su vestido de brillo no le da la personalidad para decir que no va a ir más allá. Pasará la mañana, pero por ahora aquí está. Sus penas se le quitan al bailar. Le cantan luna, luna, cuánto te quiero. Quédate pa' conversar, quédate pa' bailar. Le cantan luna, luna, cuánto te quiero. Quédate un rato más, que la noche no acaba. La 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 la, que la noche no acaba. Se despierta la luna en una pieza peculiar. Se ha marchado la brisa y le hace falta